And then we come to another next one, the Nirvana hindrances. This is covered in the early chapter 2. So Nirvana is one of the most practical and vital concepts in the Buddhist psychology. Especially for meditators, it provides a precise framework for understanding the primary obstacle of mental clarity and spiritual progress. Therefore, the literal meaning of Nirvana is that which obstructs and which covers over or hindrance. So the imaginary is the potent. Nirvanas are like hindrances that block a path or cover that stroke a light. They obstruct the two specific things, the path to wholesome state of mind. So these are things that will make you do good. The ability to see clearly, to have insight of vipassana. They are also described as a mental overlords because when they are present, they completely take over and dominate the mind. So these are things that hinder us from doing a better thing. So we need to go through the 5 hindrances again. The Buddha identified the 5 specific mental states that qualify as a primary hindrances. When these are present, the mind is incapable of concentration and wisdom. Kama chanda, sensual desire. The craving is for pleasure to the 5 senses. Desire for attractive sight, sound, smell, taste, and tactile sensation. How it hinders? It pulls the mind outward toward external objects of desire, making it restless and scattered. It's opposite of renunciation. Similarly, like water mixed with vibrant dyes, one cannot see one's true reflection because the color always overlap, so you can't see the true nature of the mind. Vyapada, ill will, meaning aversion, hatred, resentment, anger, or hostility towards a person, object, situation, or even towards oneself. How it hinders? It creates a state of internal conflict and burning agitation. It makes the mind unpleasant, hostile, destroying loving kindness. Similarly, like water boiling over a fire is bubbly and agitated, making reflection impossible. So under boiling water, you cannot see the reflection. Tina, Mida, slot and topper. These are all these we have studied in earlier one. A twin pair of lethargic. Tina is mental dullness, sluggishness or boredom. Mida is physical drowsiness, heaviness or torpor. How it hinders? It weighs the mind down, robbing it of energy, alertness, and vitality. It leads to sleepiness and a lack of motivation for practice. Similarly, it's like a water covered with overgrown algae and moss. It's stifled, stagnant, and trapped. Udacha kukucha, restlessness and worry. Another twin pair. Udacha is restlessness, agitation, distraction, and the inability to settle the mind. Kukucha is worry, remorse, or guilt over past unwholesome action or anxiety about future ones. How it hinders? It prevents the mind from becoming a calm and collected, and it keeps the mind bouncing between the past and future and never resting in the present moment. Example, like water churned by a strong wind is turbulent, wavy, and disturbed, right? And then vichikicha, doubt, meaning skeptical doubt, indecision and lack of conviction, and is not healthy. Inquiring of a paralyzing uncertainty is basically doubt about the Buddha, the Dhamma, the Sangha, the training and the past and future life. And how it hinder? It prevents the one from fully committing to the path that leads to hesitation, lack of effort, and spiritual paralysis. For example, like water that is muddy and stirred up is opaque and obscure, making it impossible to see through the truth. I mean, water that is muddy, you cannot see yourself and the clear water. So here is the antidote, how to prevent these hindrances. Sensual desire, how cultivation, renunciation, meditation of foreigner's body, and the practical techniques. Okay, you will cultivate loving kindness and do metta meditation. And slot on top of arousing energy, perception of light. Example, these are splash water and face to make yourself clear up. restlessness and worry, calming the mind, practice tranquility meditation. And then doubt, investigate on Dharma learning, study the teaching. So ask when you're doubt. Okay, this one you will slowly read through. So the role of hindrances in the path. The gatekeepers to the jhana in the framework of meditation, the temporary suppression of the five hindrances is a defining path mark of achieving to access concentration, the gateway to deep absorption of jhana. And then the obscurer of wisdom. The hindrances prevent the mind from seeing things as they are. A mind crowded by desire, aversion, sloth, and restlessness or doubt cannot gain insight into the three characteristics of existence: impermanence, suffering, and non-self. The indicators of progress. A meditator progress can be measured by how quickly they recognize a hindrance, how skillfully they apply the antidote, and how long the mind can remain free from them. There's a connection to modern psychology. In this Pali college, now they are progressing to Buddhist, using as a modern psychology. Okay, what you learn in the Buddhist study can be applied for those people using this as a form of science to treat patients who have problems. The concept of nirvana is incredibly relevant to modern mental well-being. In the current world, especially our Singapore here, full of mental problem people. So they need a lot of counselor for counsel them. How good is it? I don't know. But according to one of my this Buddhist friend who passed away, it is a very, very kind of long-winded and then no guarantee will change that particular, let's say, criminal. The criminal is still criminal. It's like a leopard never shed his spot. That's what he told me. Kama Chandra, paralysis, addiction, and compulsive behavior. These are, you can see in those home or prison, all these kind of problem. Vyapada is akin to the chronic anger, resentment, hostility, which are linked to stress and health issue, especially working in a high stress environment in work. Then you have this kind of all this chronic problem coming in. Tina meter resembles a symbol of depression and fatigue. Okay? And Udacha Kukucha is a perfect description of anxiety disorder and the what we call ADHL. This is a symptom in the science form. You go and check what is it. Vichikicha is similar to paralyzing self-doubt and a lack of purpose. Okay, so these are things we study. These are called modern psychology, which is present. So in the Buddhist psychology, they are using all these terms to help those people who are under this kind of mind to hopefully can able to overcome it and lead a proper life. But as I told you, it's like asking the leopard to shed his spot. The Buddha's framework offers a timeless, non-pathologic map of mind's natural tendency and provide a practical toolkit for managing them. So these are terms you can apply in called Buddhist psychology or what you call modern psychology for mind state treatment. Then later deposition anusaya. It's a profoundly insight concept that describes the deepest and most stubborn layer of defilement in the Buddhist psychological model. Understanding anusaya is key to the understanding of why unwholesome patterns persist even when beings are not actively engaged in them. So the literal meaning of anusaya is that which lies down with pairing the sense of latent tendency. This hidden there, latent tendency, underlying disposition. These are all things which earlier of his life is not present but is lying under the layer of the physical body. So when things come, it will arise. Proclivity, dormant preposition, and lying dormant. So all these things hard to imagine that this normal person has such thing inside, because this is what the sophistication of human. The imaginary of defilement that are not active on the surface but are asleep. Why you call this state asleep? Which the mind stream ready to be awakened under the right condition. So under the right condition, when you study Patana, you see the right condition, then this thing underneath will come out. They are the hidden seed of future suffering. So these are called kind of mental problem which will arise and times arise. They are called the sleeping defilement. While the hindrances, nirvana, are active obstructing the fetters, samoyana, are the chains that bind us to existence. The anusaya are the deep-rooted subconsciousness tendency that form the foundation for both. So here is related with these two of them. So they are the ingrained habits of the mind, residual potency of past action, and defilement that have not been utterly eradicated. So a person who is not an arahant is called a putujana, and is said to have been this 7 latent tendency of lurking or dormant within them. So it just seems so hard to be a arahant, who has so many things hidden that not been arised that we still wouldn't know. So you're going to go through the 7 latent tendency. Kama, vaga, nusava, latent tendency to sensual desire. These are deep-seated propensity for lust and attachment to same pleasure even when one is not actively craving. This tendency remains waiting for a present object to trigger it. This is a thing which we ourselves don't know. Until such a day, this thing trigger, then you arise. Patiganusaya, latency to aversion. The ingrained habit of resistance and ill will is a subconscious readiness to react with anger, hatred, and irritation when an unpleasant object is encountered. These also things are hidden and oneself always never show, but one fine day when something agitated, then this thing will surface out. Ditanusaya, latent tendency to views, the underlying predisposition to cling to opinion, especially a wrong view of a permanent self. This is a tendency of egocentric thinking. Vicikicnusava, latent tendency to doubt, the deep-rooted uncertainty to skepticism about Dharma, the path, and the teacher. It is not active questioning about dormant lack of conviction. The next one is the mananusaya, the tendency of conceit, the stubborn propensity for comparing and measuring oneself against others. I am better than or equal to or worse than. This is the last and the most stubborn expression of the ego, persisting even after more gross defilement are removed. Bhava raga nusaya, latent tendency to craving for existence. The fundamental desire is to continue existing, and this is a driving force behind the cycle of rebirth. And avijja nusaya, latency of ignorance, the primal clouding of the mind, the non-knowing of the Four Noble Truths, and the true nature of reality is therefore root of all other latent tendency. So how the anusava function and the simile of the spark. The relationship between a latent tendency and an active defilement is often explained with analogies. The spark and the flame. Anusaya is like spark buried in the ashes. It is not actively burning, but it has the potential to burst into a flame. The near state of greed, hatred, etc., when blown upon by the wind of a sensory stimulus. I mean, a burning charcoal that is have little light, but condition right, it will just make into a big fire. The sleeping snake. The anusaya is like snake, coil up and sleep it in not currently attacking, but is dangerous and can strike at any moment if provoked. So when one of the 5 senses contact an object, the corresponding latent tendency struck or provoked. If mindfulness sati is absent, the tendency erupts into active consciousness and a full-blown defilement. So this active state where motivates unwholesome speech and action created new karma. This is how anusava come about. So how do you eradicate it? The latent tendencies are not removed by mere suppression or willpower. They are not only fully illustrated by the supermundane consciousness they can only be fully eradicated using the supermundane path consciousness at the 4 stages of enlightenment. Stream entry. Eradicate the Dittanusaya and the Vichikanusava, significantly weakens the Kamaraguna and the Patiganusaya. And non-returner eradicates the Kamaganusaya and Patinanusaya, and one after another. And upon arahantship, eradicate the remaining tendency, Manusaya, Bhavananusaya, and Avinusaya. So every state, only arahant eradicate everything. The method for eradication is a development of insight by repeatedly observing the rising, passing away phenomena, and one see the impermanent, unsatisfactory, non-self nature. This wisdom penetrates the subconscious level and uproot the latent tendency, making it impossible for them to ever rise again. So, Anusaya give us a understanding. We sometimes react disproportionate to a minor event. Okay, we fall back into old pattern despite our best intention, right? Spiritual progress requires deep transformative insight, not just surface level behavior. So you want to eradicate, you have to completely go into the internal, not just external. So in modern psychological term, anusaya can be linked to subconsciousness. They call it in the science, they call subconscious imprint, deep-seated pattern from the childhood or past karma, trauma. I mean, they study that in the past, anything in the childhood is deep-rooted in the mind, and should that arise, the thing will make you crazy. Implicit memory, unconscious memory that influence present behavior. Unconditioned response, the underlying neural pathway that predispose us to a certain reaction. So these are all the mental state, especially do a madness one. All these count in. So the Buddhist path offers a way not just to manage this tendency, but to utterly destroy them at the root through the mindful investigation and wisdom. So we need to go further factors. Device of the O again. Samojana. It's a fundamental concept of Buddha's map of liberation, detailing the specific bonds that binds to the cycle of suffering. It provides a granular framework of understanding spiritual progress. So the literal meaning of samojana is that which fetters, a bond or a fetter. So the imaginary is being yoked or chained to the real existence. So this fetter bind the mind to condition world, ensuring continual rebirth, aging, and death. So what is a change or rebirth? While related to other terms and defilement like asava and nirvana, the samoyana are distinct. Asava emphasize the corrupting, intoxicating nature of defilement, like fermenting oats. Nirvana, hindrances. Nivarana, hindrances, emphasize the obstructing, covering nature of defilement, blocking concentration and wisdom. Samojana, fetter, emphasizing the binding, shackling nature of defilement, tying one to the cycle of rebirth. So the fetters are the specific knots that must be untied one by one to gain freedom, and the destruction is a defining feature of the 4 stages of enlightenment. So we are going to the 10 factor, the Dasa Sama Yojani. The standard of classification list of 10 factors which are abandoned in a specific sequence at the 4 stages awakening. The 5 lower factors, these binds to the sensual realm, and the destruction marks the attainment of the 3rd state of enlightenment, the non-returner anagami. First one, you by now should know all this, Sakyaditi, the personality view. The view of a truly existing permanent self, soul, or identity within the 5 aggregates is the fundamental conception of I and mine. Then Vicikiccha, skeptical doubt. Chronic paralyzing doubt, not about trivial matters, but about Buddha, the Dhamma, the Sangha, the training, and the principle of karma and rebirth. It prevents one from committing to the path. Third one, Sila Bhatta Pamasa, clinging to rules and ritual. The belief that mere external observance of rules and rituals, rites, and ascetic practices can lead to the liberation without the necessary internal purification of mind to wisdom. Kama Raga, sensual craving, the desire for attachment to pleasure to provide the five senses. Patiga, the ill will, aversion, resentment, anger, hatred, any form of rejection towards unpleasant stimuli. The five higher factors, Udama, Ginani, Samyo, Jananani. These are binds to the fine material and immaterial realm, the Lopa Loka and the Arupa Loka, including the exalted jhanic state and the destruction marks the attainment of full liberation, arahantship. Rupa Raga, craving for fine material existence. This is another sort of craving. Desire for existence in the form realm, which are attained through the practice of concentration, jhana, and experience as incredibly refined and blissful state. Arupa Raga, craving for impenetrable existence, desire for existence in the formless realm of infinite space, infinite consciousness, which are even more refined and peaceful than the four realms. Mana, conceit. The stubborn tendency to compare and measure oneself against others, even the thought I am, is a manifestation of conceit. This is the last vestige of the ego, more stubborn than identity view, and an anagami has no self-view but still have a stubborn sense of I-amness. Udacha, restlessness, mental agitation, distract and lack of serenity. At this level is a deep-seated tendency that prevents the utter peace of Nibbana. Avijja, ignorant, the fundamental rule of all factors, the non-liking, the Four Noble Truths, suffering and origin, cessation, and the path is blindness to the nature of reality. So the path of destroying the factors is the noble eightfold path. Each factor has a specific antidote. Sakkaditi, eradicated by insight into non-self, seeing the five aggregate as impersonal process. Vicikiccha, overcome by studying the Dhamma, wise reflection, and developing of unwavering confidence through direct experience. Sila Bhatta Pamasa, ritual cleaning, abandoned by an understanding what purification comes from, intending wisdom, not blind ritual. Kama, Raga, and Patiga, weakened and destroyed by cultivating renunciation, loving kindness, and the possession of impermanent and foulness of object of desire. And higher factor, 6 to 10, eradicating by deepening insight and concentration, penetrating the ultimate unsatisfactoriness of all conditions, even in the most refined state. Defilement, Kalisa, is a central and encompassing concept in Buddhist psychology and ethics. It's a broader term for mental state that defile, corrupt, and afflict the mind, leading to suffering and continued existence in samsara. The literal meaning of Kilesa is defilement, affiliation, impurity, stain, or corruption. The imaginary is something that soils the mind, innate purity, clarity, causing inner turmoil and distress. The universe of mental affiliation. Kilesa is the umbrella term that encompasses the unwholesome mental state, while the terms like samojana and asava specifically specify how defilement bind or intoxicate. Kilesa refers to their fundamental nature as afflictive agents. So a mind under influence of Kilesa is compared to dirty water, cannot be clearly reflected. A stained cloth that loses the nature of purity and beauty. A sick person in a state of disease and suffering. So this is described what Kilesa is about. The sole purpose of Buddhist path is the eradication of Kilesa, as stated in Dhammapada. To abstain from evil, all evil, to cultivate good, and to purify one's mind. This is the teaching of the Buddha. The purification of one's mind is precisely the removal of kilesa. Three-rooted kilesa, or the three poison. So all defilement stem from three fundamental roots, often called the three poison or unwholesome roots. They are the primary source of all suffering and unskillful action. Lobha, greed, attachment, or desire. The nature of mental factor of clinging, grasping, craving is a desire to possess and hold on to the present experience. Manifestation, lust, avarice, selfishness, possessiveness, craving for the sense, pleasure, existence, or views. Antidote, generosity, and renunciation. Dosa, hatred, delusion, ill will. Nature of the mental state is pushing away, rejecting, hostility, and is desire to be destroyed or separated from unpleasant experiences. Manifestation, anger, resentment, frustration, cruelty, envy, annoyance. Antidote, loving kindness and compassion. Moha, delusion, ignorance. The nature is a fundamental root, is a clouding of the mind, a lack of understanding of the true nature of reality. Example, Four Noble Truths, anicca, dukkha, and anatta. It causes confusion, dullness, wrong views, stupidity, and misperception. Antidote, wisdom and understanding. Crucial note, the moha is present in every single unwholesome state, lobha and dosa, and always arise on the foundation of moha and not seeing things as they truly are. So while the three roots are the source, traditional Abhidhamma classification often lists the 10 primary defilements that manifest on them. Lobha, dosa, moha, mana, ditthi, vicikicca, tina, udacaya, ahira, anuttappa. So the last two, ahika and anuttappa, are called reckless ones, as they enable all the other defilements to arise without any internal moral restraint. So the analogy is that a mind is a clear glass of water. The kilesa are dirt that make it muddy. The asava are the specific pollutant that make the water toxic. And the samoyana are the string that tie the glass to a moving wheel. And the ivanas are the lids that cover and place on top of the glass. The anusava are the sediments settled at the bottom of the invisible until stirred. So how kilesa arise and eradicated? Dependent arising kilesa are arise dependent on condition, primarily through ignorance and contact. At the sixth sense door, when a pleasant object is contacted, greed can arise, and unpleasant object can trigger aversion, and all based on delusion of self that is experiencing it. Eradication. Kilesa are not removed by force, but by wisdom, and path is to restrain them through moral discipline, suppress them to concentration, which creates temporary freedom. Eradicate them at the root level to insight into the three characteristics: impermanent, suffering, and non-self. The final destruction of kilesa is the attainment of arahantship. Oh, this one and all the rundown of the past year thing we study, right? All the past year. So we run through for this compendium of akusala. So come to tutorial. How many present here? 3. Am I right?
Yeah, Brother Call, Sister Petlin, and I.
So give your homework. Brother Ko, first one. Okay. Sister Petlin, second one. Okay, second one, Sister Petlin.
Okay.
Third one, Sister Sumeta. Okay. Then Brother Ko, do what are different type of feeling? Conscious according to feeling. Okay, then Brother Ko. Okay, then Sister Petlin, describe in detail the form of origin matter. And Sister Sumeta, do this. This one will relate to your 4th year one. Illustrate diagram the date of prospect proposal and explain how the new life is conditioned. Okay? Any question? These 3 are guaranteed come out. Okay? This one guaranteed come out. These are over the years one different on your senior one. So I pick and choose for you to practice. Okay? Brother go this one. Pick link this one. And Sister Sumeta. Okay.